Today on Time About the Movies, 7 movies, that is 7, I had to check, 7 new movies to look at this week, including Ben Affleck's follow-up to The Gone Baby Gone, his directorial debut, The Town. We have Emma Stone starring in an updated version of The Scarlet Letter for comedy's sakes. It's actually a lot better than the Demi Moore movie from 1995. Easy A. We have M. Night Shyamalan's production of a John Eric Dowdle film, Devil. We have Justin Long and Hayden Panettiere in yet another lazy attempt by Lionsgate to, create their own family franchise with Alpha and Omega. We also have some indie movies, too. One of them started off an MTV series, Catfish. We have Andrew Garfield starring in Never Let Me Go. And we have Philip Seymour Hoffman making his directorial debut with Jack Goes Boating. So a lot of films to get to. I'm already wasting so much of your time. Let's get to the show. And welcome to Time About the Movies. As I said, we're looking at 7 movies on the September 17th, 2010, so let's just get right to it with the biggest new release of the weekend, and the best one in my opinion, The Town, in which we have 4 masked men and bank robbers, played by Ben Affleck, Jeremy Renner, Slane, and Owen Burke, making a living robbing banks. At their most recent bank robbery, they take a bank manager, played by Rebecca Hall, hostage. After they escape, they realize that they have her driver's license, and they also realize that she lives 4 blocks from them. After meeting her in a laundromat to make sure she doesn't talk to the FBI, Doug, played by Affleck, starts hanging out with her, not knowing that he's actually one of the bank robbers. Meanwhile, an FBI agent, played by John Hamm, is in charge of the case surrounding the recent robbery, and he eventually surveys the crew at a cookout following leads that point to their involvement. He eventually surveys the crew at a cookout, and realizes that they are all working for Fergie Combe, played by Pete Postlethwaite, in what I believe is one of his last film performances. I think he might have died before this or after this movie came out. I think it was afterwards. Let me take a look. It was right afterward. It was just after the year got started in 2011, But you also have Chris Cooper playing Doug's father, Stephen, and Blake Lively playing Jem's sister and Doug's ex-lover, Krista, who has a kid with Doug. And they're just part of the reasons why this is one of the best movies of the year. This is right up there with some of the best films that came out in 2010. I mean, this is a film that just shows how far Ben Affleck has come in the years since, his infamous year of Jersey Girl, Geely, Paycheck, Surviving Christmas. I mean, he's back in full form, man, and this is a film that really put him on the map and really should have been a heavy Oscar contender. But sadly, the only one that got an Oscar nomination was Jeremy Renner. But I say sadly like it's a bad thing. But Jeremy Renner was good in the movie, but Ben Affleck should have gotten some love at this point. But hey, it'll work out with his next movie with Argo. But the casting overall is great in here. Rebecca Hall, John Hamm, Chris Cooper, Pete Postlethwaite. The breakout here is Blake Lively, who really comes into her own after years on Gossip Girl, and she's somebody that she really shows her what she can do as an actress as a whole, and she makes it work very well. And it has one of the best climaxes I've seen since The Departed. I mean, there's so many comparisons to The Departed here, and it's really hard not to see why. This is a really good movie that very much is in line with The Departed. A great car chase, one of the best ones I've seen in a long, long time. Fantastic imagery that you see in the trailer. That scene where the robbers are just driving in the car in nun masks with rifles, and this kid is just watching them. It's a chilling scene that got me back then, and it still gets me to this very day. It's a tense, chilling, fantastic film. Everything about the movie works. This is a fantastic film, and hard to believe, this is actually, I think, better than Inception. I think this is actually just a little bit ahead of Inception, but that movie's great too. But The Town, definitely high up there. It's one of my favorite films of the year. Great, great movie. What more could you say? So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie. Another great movie that came out this weekend, and that is, of course, Easy A. A movie where Emma Stone basically just says, I'm here and I'm not going away anytime soon. And I will see you when I win my 2 Oscars in the next 15 years. And rightfully so, because, yeah, she's turned out to be a pretty damn good actress and not just the Jonah Hill's girlfriend from Superbad that took a big hit on the head for that role. But here she plays clean-cut high schooler Oliver Pendergast and is overstricken by a strict Christian classmate played by Amanda Bynes. This was the movie that everyone thought that Amanda Bynes was going to come back after the years of being struggling with, addiction and all that. And then, sadly, it wasn't the case. It was never meant to be. But insinuating that she lost her virginity over the weekend, rumors began to spread, leading Olive to believe that, to later pretend that she slept with her gay friend, played by Courtney Cox's son on Cougar Town, Dan Bird, to help convince the school he is straight in order to help him fend off homophobic bullies. Several bullies learn what she has done and beg her to perform the same for them, helping to benefit from their lost virginities. Excuse me. This eventually turns into a full-fledged business, lucrative and socially beneficial for Olive, enough so to gain the ire of her rival, Marianne, who doesn't like the attention she's getting. Olive's life begins to resemble that of Hester Prynne and Nathaniel Hawthorne's The Scarlet Letter. Olive then decides to use the rumors to her own advantages, affixing a red A to her clothing in reference to the embattled heroine of the novel. However, the glamour and mystery quickly deteriorates, and Olive must figure out how to reclaim her good reputation. Every decade, you get that one good high school movie, and sometimes you get more than that. In the 80s, it was Fast Times at Ridgemont High. In the 90s, it was Dazed and Confused and Clueless. In the 2000s, it was Mean Girls. This is that movie for this decade. I have not seen a movie in a long time where I liked everybody in this movie. I even liked characters I wasn't supposed to like. I liked the bitchy Christian people in this movie. I thought they were a ton of fun. Everybody in this movie delivers strong performances. Emma Stone is great in here. So is Amanda Bynes. And, Alison Mashaka coming off of her time on Phil of the Future. And she's great in the movie, too, playing Stone's best friend in here. Stanley Tucci and Patricia Clarkson are great as the parents to Olive. Thomas Hayden Church has some good laughs. Malcolm McDowell's the best I've seen him in a long time. I completely forgot Lisa Kudrow's in this movie. She doesn't show up until halfway through. But, yeah, she was pretty good overall, although her story kind of felt a little unnecessary. It felt like it was tacked on when it really could have been held for something else entirely. But there are a lot of great laughs with this movie. It never gets boring. It never gets old. It has some of the best end credits I've seen in a while. This is directed by the guy who did Fired Up, Will Gluck, who would later go on to direct stuff like Peter Rabbit, and turned out to be a pretty solid comedy director as a whole. This is a terrific film. I really enjoyed the hell out of this movie. This is definitely one of the year's best films, no question about it. If you haven't seen it, Easy A is definitely worth checking out. So, on to the next movie, and that is the M. Night Shyamalan production, that is Devil. Yeah, even though it's an M. Night Shyamalan production, it's not helped by the fact that this is the same guy that directed Quarter Teen and also the Poughkeepsie Tapes, and has not gotten better since, as he's also directed As Above, So Below, and also No Escape. And this was supposed to be the first part of a standalone series of films produced by M. Night Shyamalan called The Night Chronicles, and needless to say, despite the fact that this movie did well, the mixed reviews were enough for people to say, yeah, we ain't coming back to this movie anytime soon. You have a simple story where you have 5 strangers trapped in an elevator with the devil suspected to be among them. That could be a fun movie, but not in this case. M. Night Shyamalan is still in his I'm better than you are pretentious levels of ridiculousness, with scenes in here that are so pretentious and so stupid. Jelly side down. I don't think I need to say more about that one, how stupid that is, but even the twist when it actually shows up in this movie, because we got to have that in this film, even though it's not a Shyamalan directed film. It's still produced by him, but yeah, it's a film that just is completely devoid of anything that's great about it. The actors really aren't giving it their all. They're given the typical M. Night Shyamalan dialogue-esque performance where they're just talking and not really saying a lot of emotion, doing a lot of emotions with their performances in general. It just doesn't work. It just does not work. It's not scary. It's more hilarious than scary. And yeah, there are times in this movie where you don't know if the people behind it are taking it seriously or not. And this one definitely feels like they're not taking this seriously at all. But they're trying to, but they don't want to admit to that, so they just keep going, keep pulling through. And needless to say, it just does not work. So yeah, a hard skip on Devil. And you can also say a hard skip to the next movie we have here, and that is Alpha and Omega.
Idaho?
Idaho? You were relocated to, repopulate? Oh, sounds good to me.
No. I have to get back to Jasper Park, Canada.
I don't give a fuck. I don't care where you have to get back to. You're in a terrible movie, and this is a terrible movie. This is the typical Lionsgate movie where They literally have to have something where they have to have something for the family film library, but they don't have the talents behind it. They don't have the studios like Pixar or Illumination or DreamWorks behind them. No, they have whatever garbage studios around them that needs to get attention, and it's just like, hey, we're Lionsgate, we'll give you a chance. And yeah, this is the company Crest Animation who gave us the Swan Princess, and just like the Swan Princess, there's 1,000,000,006 different sequels to this. There's like 7 Alpha and Omega sequels, because I guess this thing did well enough to spawn those sequels, but just why? Just why? The story really is nothing that amazing. You have 2 young Rocky Mountain wolves named Kate, played by Hayden Panettiere, and Humphrey, played by Justin Long, who fall in love with each other, but are on the opposite ends of their pack. However, when Kate and Humphrey learn that they get to be relocated to Idaho for repopulation, they must work together to get back to Jasper National Park before a war slowly begins to emerge between both packs. So yeah, really fucking stupid when you really think about it. And let's just get the bad stuff out of the way. The animation is terrible. You don't buy into the romance between Long and Hayden Panettiere. These are 2 good actors, good comedic actors, who are just given nothing to work with here. This is the last movie Dennis Hopper did before he died. He actually died 4 months before this thing got released. Danny Glover is pointlessly put in here. So was Christina Ricci. So was there was another name too. You know, you got a lot of recognizable talents in here. Larry Miller, Vicki Lewis, Kevin Sussman from Big Bang Theory, Christine Lakin. I mean, there is good talent across the board in here. The problem is they're stuck in a terrible movie and they're also stuck in a place where you gotta be up there with some of the big boys to play with them. Like, you gotta be on Despicable Me level. You gotta be on Universal's level. You gotta be on Disney's level. You gotta be on Warner Brothers level, because guess what? It's coming next week. Warner Brothers' latest animated movie, and that kicks the crap out of this pile of garbage. This is a lousy movie, man. This is a terrible film. The animation is terrible. The jokes are awful. The voice cast is completely wasted. Would you expect anything less from this studio? I sure wouldn't think so. But oh, and by the way, this was also shot in 3D, and I don't see if this was post-production 3D. So no use of my post-production 3D hell. Graphic again, sadly, but then again, maybe that's for the best, because just go watch Balto, man. It's a much better movie than this pile of garbage. It's pretty much the same. It's the same setup, except a different kind of storyline here, and actually has more of a purpose to it than whatever the hell this movie was trying to do. So anyway, that's Alpha and Omega for you. So let's go ahead and move on to some more indie films that came out. But this first one actually did lead into a franchise of its own, and that is, of course, Catfish. Typical white people. We never learn. You see a farm out in the middle of nowhere with the lights on at night. Yeah. Normal common sense would tell you to get the hell out of there, but no, we gotta do this because we gotta find out what the hell's going on with this woman. And as the title indicates, this is a film about the term catfishing. Now, if you don't know what that is, it's a type of deceptive activity involving a person creating a fake social networking presence for nefarious purposes. In the case of this, you have one man, man named Nev Schulman, being filmed by his brother and friend, co-directors Henry Joost and Ariel Schulman, who would later go on to direct some Paranormal Activity movies, as he builds a romantic relationship with a young woman on the social networking website Facebook. And of course, this went on to become a big critical and commercial success, and actually did lead to the release of an MTV television series, which I believe is still going on today, where the Schulmans basically decide to do this as a reality TV show concept, and use it to break down these catfishing people, these people who are catfishing others for relationships and stuff like that. And I think it's still going on, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's still going on. It's 9 years it's been going on. It premiered in 2012, but yeah, this is a really good film. This is a really entertaining movie that does deliver a really good, solid storyline here. It's a unique little found footage concept where you have this guy going to figure out what's going on with this person, and it does lead to a very intriguing, very engaging climax at the end, where you get to see these people. Where this guy goes, and it leads into a lot of very interesting scenarios. I mean, the last half hour of the film really is a tense movie in general. It keeps you on the edge of your seat of how this is going to end and what the end result of it's going to be. And I think it does work very well. I think it's a very solid film. It shows that these two directors know what they're doing and would later go on to use that for Paranormal Activities 3 and 4. And it's just a really solid, intriguing premise and a really solid, intriguing film overall. I think it's a great film. Definitely worth checking out if you haven't seen it. So, yeah, can't recommend Catfish enough. So, with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the next movie. The first big leading starring role for Andrew Garfield, and that is Never Let Me Go. If you love me, never let me go. Sorry, I had to do that. But directed by Mark Romanek. This was his consolation prize for not getting The Wolfman. Hey, you got a much more well-received independent film than you probably would have gotten with The Wolfman. And you have the story of an alternate history and centering around Kathy, Ruth, and Tommy, portrayed by Carey Mulligan, one of her early film roles. And actually, she was nominated the year before for an Education. Keira Knightley and Andrew Garfield, who become entangled in a love triangle. And this is, of course, based off of the 2005 novel of the same name. It's a dystopian romantic drama, and yeah, it's a really good movie. And for Mark Romanek, he did kind of need this after what happened with Wolfman. And it does show that, hey, this guy is a really solid freaking director. And again, when you have the script of Alex Garland, who also wrote 28 Days Later and Ex Machina, all signs point to greatness, and this film definitely delivered on all that and then some. This is a terrific film. Shows what Andrew Garfield's capable of before he eventually gets that nod to go ahead and go do Spider-Man. And then before that, I mean, not but 2 weeks later, he's going to be starring in The Social Network, which is one of the more talked about films of the year in general. And it works. It's a really engaging film. Not much more to say about it. Definitely worth checking out. Never Let Me Go. So let's go ahead and take a look at the last film we have here, and that is, of course, Jack Goes Boating.
I do some of those things.
Philip Seymour Hoffman making his directorial debut, also starring as a shy, awkward man who drives a limo and lives an unassuming life. His friend and co-worker Clyde and his wife Lucy feel sorry for Jack and set him up on a blind date with Connie, played by Amy Ryan of Gone Baby Gone fame. Connie shares Jack's shyness and awkwardness, but through each other they seem to be able to find solace within themselves. Trouble might be brewing in paradise, though, as Clyde and Lucy's marriage stumbles just as Jack and Connie's relationship grows. And, yeah, it'd be interesting to see Philip Seymour Hoffman tackling on a directorial role like this, and he does it okay, but the movie itself isn't that great overall. Not because the performances are bad. John Ortiz and Daphne Rubin Vega played the other couple in here, and they're okay in here, I guess, but Philip Seymour Hoffman and Amy Ryan are really the two people that you really get behind overall, and you really find a lot of value and merit to them in this performance in general. And I think Philip Seymour Hoffman does a good job as a director. I just don't think the script overall was really that strong. I think the biggest thing about that is that the script overall is just kind of bland, kind of mediocre at best. There's just nothing about the story in general that makes it unique or stand out in any way, shape, or form. I think it's a fine film, but it's a film that is mostly a one-time watch. It's one that you're definitely not going to want to watch again the second time around. There's nothing really about it that makes it stand out except for the fact that it's a Philip Seymour Hoffman directorial effort, and the only thing he's ever directed, as far as I know. But, yeah, overall, it's not a bad movie, but just one where it's just like, for one-time watch it's fine, but you're never going to want to watch it again after the first time. And so with all that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies, and we'll move on to September as we wrap it up next time around with the sequel that nobody was really asking for, but Oliver Stone said, yeah, I want to see it. Wall Street Money Never Sleeps, with Michael Douglas back as Gordon Gekko, and Shia LaBeouf starring in it as well, because he was the hot commodity at the time. But then you have the best movie of the entire week, and maybe Zack Snyder's best movie overall, Legend of the Guardians, The Owls of Ga'Hoole. We'll talk about that one. We'll talk about another bad Disney Kristen Bell-led film, You Again, which also features Sigourney Weaver and Jamie Lee Curtis among its cast. We also have The Virginity Hit, sort of like a similar movie to Catfish, where it's a documentary, but kind of not, but it's one that's been largely forgotten overall. Woody Allen's newest film, You Will Meet a Tall, Dark Stranger, and we have the documentary Waiting for Superman. Actually, 7 movies here, because we have Ryan Reynolds starring in the thriller Buried. So yeah, another packed week of films coming your way to wrap the month of September 2010 up. So we will talk about all those movies coming up tomorrow on the show. But with all that said, though, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification button so you get updates on when the videos come out. We also have our playlist right there, and check out the last episode we did. So with all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.